So now we're on page 219 of our book, and we're still talking about metamorphosis in our insects. Can somebody tell me, what are the two different types of metamorphosis? We learned about two different types. What are they called? What are the two types of metamorphosis? Isabella?
Complete and incomplete.
Complete and incomplete. Who could tell me the stages in complete metamorphosis? What are the stages? What are the stages in complete metamorphosis? Yes, Olivia?
Egg, larva, pupa, and adult.
Yes, egg, pupa, larva, and adult. What are the stages in incomplete metamorphosis? What are they? Isabella?
Egg, nymph, and adult.
Egg, nymph, and adult. Very, very good. Now, we left off talking about, we are here in this stage, right here. We are talking about the reproduction stage of our cicada and our ladybug, right here. So this is what we were doing. We're looking at these pictures, right, boys and girls? It says in their final molt, cicada adults, here we have left, grow wings. The adult reproduces by laying eggs in holes made in branches. So you can see it doing that. And then we have a corresponding picture of the ladybug at the same part in its life cycle, or the same stage in its life cycle. And it says when the ladybug comes out of the pupa, it looks very different. In the adult stage, ladybugs reproduce and lay eggs underneath leaves. And those are the ladybug eggs, those little yellow things. So now what we're going to do is we are going to write how they are alike and how they are different. Okay? So could somebody tell me what is alike about them at this stage? What do they both do? What do they both do? John?
They both lay eggs.
Yes, they both reproduce with eggs. They both reproduce with eggs. And so what is different about them in this stage? Oh, this is not showing there. Maybe I need to move a little so that our at-home people can see. Our at-home friends can see. So what is different in this stage that we just learned? What seems different? Evelyn?
They lay eggs in different places.
Yes, they lay eggs in different places. Very good. So let's say that. That's as easy as we could say it. They lay eggs in different places. There, so that is the big difference. They lay eggs in different places. One does it underneath leaves, and one does it in in holes that they make in branches. Okay, does everybody have that? So now let's go back so we can look at our next set of pictures. So now we're in the last stage of life of our cicada and our ladybug. And look, it says like all animals, the last stage of the cicada's life cycle, right here, is death. In the wild, the cicada can live up to 17 years. That's a long time. This ladybug on your right is nearing the end of its life and will eventually die. A ladybug in the wild can live up to 3 years. Okay? So there we have the last stage in the life cycle of our cicada and our ladybug. So now we want to think how they are alike and how they are different. So let's go, and we are going to write how are they alike. What's alike about this part of this part of their life cycle? What's alike about them? Yes.
They both reach the end.
Yes, they both have a death. They both go through a death stage. Okay, so they both. It's good. They both go through a death stage. And so what is different about them? What is different? What's different? Gabe?
The cicada lives up to about 7 times, and the ladybug lasts about 3 years.
Yes. So cicadas can live up to 17 years. Cicadas can live up to 17 years. And ladybugs, oops, forgot the ladybug business. And so in ladybugs, up to 3. Okay. So which one of the metamorphosis seems more simple? Which one of the metamorphosis seems more simple? John?
The cicada,
And why is that one more simple?
it's got less stages.
It's less stages, so that would be is that the incomplete or the complete?
Incomplete.
The incomplete, it has less stages to it. So yes, that one does seem more simple because you have less stages to it. So here's what I want you to do. Go to page 221. Go to page 221. We're skipping 220. We're going to page 221. I went right past it. I to control the thing here. Where did it go? Okay, we're going past that. So now we want to think about how cicadas and ladybugs are alike. And we're going to select all the answers that apply to both. Which of these do you think we would choose? What's one way they are alike? Logan?
They both begin in eggs.
They both begin in an egg stage, so we'll check that. Don't circle anything in your book until we double check to make sure we're correct. What else do you think is true? What do you think? Yes.
Lay eggs to reproduce.
Lay eggs to reproduce. Oops. What else? What else could we check? Claire?
And with a death stage.
Okay, we'll see if, is there anything else that we want to check here? What do you think? Yes.
They go through a death or a growth stage.
They go through a growth stage. Okay, so should we check? Or is there more we want to do? Yes, those things are all true. Both insects hatch from eggs. They go through growth stages and they reproduce with eggs and eventually die. Good job, boys and girls. So circle those, except I don't think you have that many. You don't. So what you have would be number 14. So let's look at question number 14 in your book. Okay? It says putting it all together. So if you look on page 221, we have, oh, what is that at the top of the page, boys and girls? What is that, Rosie? It's the life cycle of a butterfly. which you have seen here at school when we've hatched butterflies. It says, how are the life cycles of amphibians and insects the same? So we have three choices. How are insects and amphibians the same, do you think? What is the same about them? What do you think's the same about them? Claire?
They all go through growth stages.
Well, that's not one of our choices, though.
They both begin life as eggs.
Yes, they both begin life as eggs. So everybody circle that. They both begin life as eggs. So A. We can circle A. Now it says, which of these is true of insects? So look at our four choices. Do they all have a nymph stage? Do they all go through incomplete metamorphosis? Do they all lay eggs? Do they all develop into larvae? Bryson, what do you think?
C.
C, they all lay eggs. That's true because we know that some of them have a complete metamorphosis, some of them have an incomplete metamorphosis. So some of those things would definitely be ruled out. So now we have to answer our question, number 16, and it says, what is the difference between complete and incomplete metamorphosis? So, how are we going to answer that question? Logan?
They have different stages.
They do have different stages. So to answer that question thoroughly, do you think we need to list the different stages? Yes. So let's start. We'll start with a complete metamorphosis. Has the following stages. What's one of the stages? Tell me the stages. Bianca, what's the first stage in complete metamorphosis? Do you know, Bianca? What is it? What do they start with?
Egg.
Egg. What's the next stage? A larva. Oops, I'm spelling that wrong. What's next? Egg, larva, pupa. Then what? Not duck. Santiago?
Reproduction.
The what? No. Yes, Logan?
Adult.
Adult. And adult. Now we have to figure out what is the incomplete metamorphosis. So now we say incomplete metamorphosis. So incomplete metamorphosis has the following stages. What are the stages that incomplete metamorphosis has? Bryson?
Egg. Nymph.
Egg, nymph,
And adult.
and adult. Very good. Egg, nymph, and adult. So let's get that down there. Now, boys and girls, now I want you to turn to page 222. because that's where the excitement starts. Because that is where we have observing mealworm metamorphosis, which is what you're going to be doing. You are going to be observing the life cycle, the metamorphosis, I should say, of a mealworm. You are going to be getting a mealworm, and you're going to be watching it go through its metamorphosis. Hopefully it'll go through its metamorphosis. So let's look and see what it says here. Let's look at our objective on page 222. It says mealworms are larvae of mealworm beetles, a black insect. Many animals eat them. So here's what you're going to be doing. You're going to collaborate, which means work with people, but obviously you can't work in groups or anything, to observe and record the changes in a mealworm as it goes through its life cycle. What question will you investigate to meet this objective? So what are you going to want to know as we're doing this project? What do we want to know, boys and girls? What do you think this thing we're going to want to figure out, or what are we very curious about, Ava?
What do they eat?
You're curious about what they eat? What do you want? Yes, what do you think we're going to want to figure out?
I want to figure out the life cycle of it.
You want to figure out the life cycle, yes?
The stages of which it lives in.
The stages, that's what we're curious about, boys and girls. So that might be one thing we want to know. So let's write that. Let's write what are the stages of a mealworm's life? Or what will the stages of a mealworm's life look like? What will the stages of a mealworm's life cycle look like? Okay, so now boys and girls, it says research the types of living conditions that a mealworm needs to survive. Record your findings on the lines below. So what I have done is I set up a document for you with research links for you, much like I did when we researched something else. So what you're going to do is you're going to be going on your iPad. We're not going to have time right now. And there will be links for you to read about mealworms, to look at videos about mealworms, so you know what your mealworm is going to need so it can complete its life cycle. Yes?
It actually popped up.
Did it pop up on your Google Classroom today?
Yes.
Yes, it'll be in your Google Classroom. You are not to do it until we do it in class. So that's what I want. I want you to wait until we do it in class. Yes?
So this video or anything else, this data is going to tell us how to it's going to tell what about the, what's it called, the mealworm?
It'll tell you all about mealworm.